So this is our time, friends. We're now going to switch over to, I have 4 o'clock. We're going to switch into Rocket City Pinball.
Andy Sokol. This is a gentleman I met through Facebook. He's done some very unusual tweaks to a common item. Check this out. It's pretty wild.
It is. So let's see what he does with some playfields.
Not playfield, but playfield components.
Playfield components. Excuse me.
So there I was, standing in the back of an airplane hangar, absolutely drenched in sweat. And little did I know that that was the moment that was going to set 3 of my hobbies on a collision course and would lead me here to talk to you today. I'm Andy Sokol of Rocket City Pinball in Titusville, Florida. And earlier this summer, I stumbled on an elegant solution to help you rejuvenate an aged playfield. And then I took it a step further to see if this idea could be used to refresh and personalize your other games too. First, just a little background about me. I'm an aerospace engineer with 17 years experience in the industry, including aircraft, the space shuttle, and various other rockets we launched down here on the Space Coast. I exercise the artistic half of my brain as a photographer, through which I participate in art shows around the state of Florida and have won multiple awards. I'm also a lifelong pinball enthusiast, and here's why. To put it simply, it's in my blood. Here's a photo from 1954 with my father and his friends in a New York City arcade. 9 years later, he begins a lifelong love affair with Gottlieb's Slick Chick at an arcade near his father's office. 13 years later, in 1976, he buys a Slick Chick machine of his very own for $326. Here's a photo of my older brother in 1979 in the early stages of his pinball addiction. I'm not even born yet. I'm born in 1980, and I grow up with a pinball machine in my house, feeding it every dime I could find, even if that meant stealing some from my mom's little cupcake-shaped coin jar in the kitchen. I learned to truly value the sound of that knocker as I occasionally earned those replays. As I got older, I played every game in the rotation at my local bowling alley, starting with Terminator 2, and then the other most popular games of the early 90s. Here's a screenshot from a video of my 12th birthday party, mesmerizing my friends with the silver ball. My family frequented a particular campground, whose game room also had a Terminator 2, so immediately after we'd arrive, my brother and I would always head straight to the game room to drop our quarters in my favorite game. I started collecting and working on pinball machines in the summer of 2015. My wife was a stay-at-home mom at the time with our 2 kids, so I didn't have a lot of disposable income at the time. So, like many of you probably did, I started my collection with relatively inexpensive machines, and resolved to learn to fix them, play them for a while of course, and then eventually trade or sell my way up into better and better games. Naturally, working on these machines really appealed to my engineering side. My first 2 games came in a batch deal, a fully functioning electromechanical Sky Kings and a broken-down solid-state Bobby Orr power play. As I started young, so I got my own kids started young too. My daughter was 4 when our first 2 machines arrived, and so I roped her into helping me work on them. The first time we got power play to boot up, our excitement was electric, and she was hooked ever since. Anytime a new machine arrives, she's always ready to dive in and test all the switches and shop it out with new bulbs and rubbers. There was one stretch when all of our games were fully working, and she actually bemoaned the fact that we didn't have any broken ones to work on. My son loves to play too. He's a little more reluctant to help with repairs, though, as he'd much rather just find a game with some drop targets to smash. This part of the story will probably sound very familiar to some of you, as first there were 2, then there were 3, then 5, then 7, 8, 9. I even had as many as 11 at one time. But obviously, my drive to find and fix and trade and work my way up has been pretty successful. There are a few noteworthy events in this journey, the first of which was the acquisition of my Holy Grail. I'd found and fixed up a Black Knight 2000, which happened to be the Holy Grail of a family friend, so I had him go find my Grail, and we made the ultimate trade. It was quite the momentous day, as you can see. Working my way up culminated in an event I thought I would never see. We got a brand new in-box game. I traded away 3 of my older games to get a Game of Thrones Pro, one of the limited run from 2019 when the new code was released. It was hard to give up those other games, but again, I had to tell myself that was the idea all along. Here's a picture of my wife the day Game of Thrones arrived. She loves this game, though she may also be smiling because the net number of games in the house went down by 2 that day. One last noteworthy event in this saga was getting to reunite my father with his beloved Slick Chick. I had moved to Florida for college and to work in the space program, and eventually my parents moved down too, but when they did, they left our Slick Chick behind with my older brother, who still lives up north. After a while, I was able to get my hands on another Slick Chick, and I wrapped it up for my dad's birthday a few years ago. So here's the current state of affairs, the result of over 25 other machines coming through here since 2015. You should also take note of this little thing in the corner, which is a major player in the exciting idea I'm about to share with you. I also wanted to take a quick moment to show you some of my photography, as it plays into the story in a way too. Pinball machines are so colorful and have such intricate detail, and I've always loved using photography to show you something in a creative, unique sort of way. Maybe something you've seen but have never looked at this way before. Keep in mind my attention to detail and use of color and my tendency to look at things a little bit differently. And feel free to reach out if you need some help decorating your game room. So here's how it all came together. I still have my Sky Kings, though my father is borrowing it right now. It's in very good shape and has the most beautiful chimes, so a friend has been poking at me asking to buy it from me. So when another Sky Kings popped up for sale on Craigslist earlier this summer, I immediately went to go get it, because this meant my friend could have one and I could keep the other. Everyone always says, don't sell your first, you'll always miss it. Unfortunately, it was buried in the back of an airplane hangar, which you can see hiding in this picture, and it was in much worse condition than I'd expected. The cabinet was rough, the playfield was very badly yellowed, the plastics were filthy, there were rodent feces in the cabinet, and of course the game itself didn't work. It needed way more attention than I wanted to put in at the time, as I had a Royal Flush project I was still trying to finish. The owner, however, was already getting weary of the harassment coming in from the Craigslist weirdos, and we were both already drenched in sweat from standing in there in the heat and humidity. So instead of selling it to me, he offered to hire me for a repair job, just to get the game working again. Don't worry about cosmetics, he said. I think it'll be great just to have a playable pinball machine. I stewed on it for a bit, while literally stewing in my own sweat, and eventually agreed. We actually had to physically move the airplane out of the way to get the game out of there, and that was definitely a first for me. I brought his Sky Kings home and set it up right next to mine, which only made its rough condition that much more apparent. These two machines had only been 6 units apart on the original assembly line, and were now reunited after 46 years, and it was obvious which had lived the harder life. After a week or so of tinkering on it in the late hours after the kids went to bed, I had it up and running and fully functional, but boy, did it need some cosmetic help. Remember, he told me not to worry about cosmetics, but at a minimum it still needed a deep cleaning. The decorative plastics were opaque and brown, and miraculously they cleaned up to that standard aged translucent yellow color. I scrubbed a significant layer of grime off the old playfield, which confirmed how yellowed the clear coat was. It pained me greatly not to rebuild the pop bumpers nor replace the spinner decals, but that wasn't part of the job. I was finally ready to reassemble the game and finish it up, but I ran into the problem I know many of you have encountered before. Of course, I couldn't in good conscience reinstall those old, brittle, cruddy plastic posts. I had some brand new posts on hand, but their fresh white clashed dreadfully with the yellowed playfield and aged plastics. The new posts were so crisp and bright they only accentuated its poor condition and made the game look really bad. I even tried some other slightly aged posts I'd removed from another machine, but even they had the same problem. So I was in a pickle because I couldn't put the old ones back on, but I couldn't put the new ones on either. I needed some other solution. So enter the new hobby. That thing in the corner I pointed out earlier was a 3D printer. Thanks to being stuck at home due to COVID precautions, my daughter and I had recently taken up 3D printing. We've been having a blast. She's been designing dragons, and I'd already used it to create a few new parts for my pinball machines, like these custom mounts for toy vehicles in my Jurassic Park, and these neat little light shields that block errant light from spilling over into nearby inserts under the playfield.
Video game giant.
My daughter had been trying to print another dragon in some gold filament she'd asked me to buy. I went to check on it and found that the print had failed, leaving behind a half-dragon, half-spaghetti monster. Knowing she'd get a kick out of this, I was carrying the dragon across the room and happened to walk past that old Sky King's, and it struck me that the gold filament matched perfectly. The solution to my post problem was instantly obvious. I needed to 3D print new posts out of this gold filament. A friend of mine sent me a model of a post that I could print. I fired up the printer and churned them out. They were such a perfect match, they blended right in. Think about it. Think about all the yellowed plastics you've seen. They're not really yellow, they're more of a gold. Think about that yellowed playfield. That discolored clear coat isn't really yellow, it's more golden. So, unless you're planning to strip the clear coat and re-clear it and replace all the plastics, then these golden posts are the perfect solution for rejuvenating that aged playfield. Here's a photo showing how wonderfully the golden posts look compared to various other options. That seems like an obvious choice. Here's the original posts, here's the lightly aged post, and here's brand new posts. They just clash so brightly with that yellowed clear coat and golden plastics, so the golden posts look fantastic. Their silky shine helps breathe new life into that buttery playfield without the harsh, stark contrast of the bright white new posts. So I outfitted the machine with the golden posts, returned it to its owner, and he absolutely loved how the new posts looked. Here's another look at a few more locations where I'd installed the golden posts. As you can see, the match is perfect. Such an elegant solution to this cosmetic problem. Here's one last look, a little before and after. You can notice the posts are very visible here by the spinner and up near the saucer and rollover lanes. So then I started to wonder if there could be any other applications for these golden posts. And it hit me. Gold is actually a prominent color in many other games, so why couldn't we use these posts there too? A local friend of mine has a Paragon, which has lots of gold on the playfield, so I paid him a visit, and the golden posts look spectacular on there. Far better than what was on there before. So what other games have gold? Indiana Jones, Theater of Magic, Lord of the Rings, Champion Pub, the list goes on. These games would look amazing with golden posts. Now I realized I was really onto something here, so I needed to be sure to make them the best that I could. I had already been printing them with a high amount of infill to ensure they're very strong and can handle getting bashed with a pinball. The infill is essentially the density of the material inside the part when it prints. Between the infill and the rubber once they're installed, I have no concerns about their strength. After a discussion online with someone, I realized I needed to update the model though. Digging into the model my friend had sent me, I noticed the original post was modeled from a shortened cylinder, which the software was forcing to have a particularly low number of sides. This is what creates these vertical facets that you can see in the post on the right. In addition, I'd printed the first sets of posts at 0.2 millimeter layer thickness, which is fairly standard for general 3D printing, but at this thickness these horizontal layer lines are fairly prominent. So I threw that model away and I started from scratch, which allowed me to create a much smoother one without those vertical facets. I also reduced the layer thickness to 0.1 millimeter to minimize the visible layer lines. As you can see in this side-by-side comparison, it really made quite a difference. Granted, they take twice as long to print now, but the end result looks much nicer. You also might have noticed that the posts in this picture are silver. Now the artistic side of me was starting to come out, wondering what other interesting colors I could use, and trying to envision how they'd look on various machines. So next I'd printed more posts from a shiny silver filament, realizing these metallic looking posts would look great on any game with a lot of habit trails or chrome accents, or games with metallic type themes like Terminator, the Pinball games, Xenon, Star Trek Next Generation, Space Invaders, and many more. I didn't have time to fully install them, but I at least dropped a few onto the playfield of my T2, and I think it definitely has potential. To round out the metallic color trifecta, I also tried some in copper, and I loved them. Think Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Fire, Junkyard, NBA Fast Break, that crazy old Orbiter 1. You can probably think of a few I haven't considered. Okay, so check this out. This idea really excites me. They make quote-unquote wood filament for 3D printers. It's still plastic, but it's infused with sawdust, which gives it a wood-like color and texture. These would work for games with wood as a prominent part of the artwork, like Fishtails, which has that wooden boat in the foreground, Black Rose on the deck of that pirate ship, or even Buccaneer and Ship Ahoy with the prominent wooden ship steering wheel in the center. Or what about wood rails? Wood rails have huge potential for these posts, for one important reason. Because the plastic has that sawdust content, you can sand them and they'll actually accept a stain. I tested this with 2 stains I had available here at my house. All you'd need to do is find a stain that matched your wood rail. Then can you just imagine how beautiful a wood rail with matching wooden posts would look? I was on a roll, so I couldn't stop there. I decided to give this white marble filament a try. There's no actual marble in it, of course. It's a cool white plastic with black speckling that ends up looking like marble when it's printed. If you can think of any sort of ancient civilization theme, maybe these might work. Perhaps in Aquarius or Flying Chariots, Atlantis, maybe Time Machine, who knows. Look at your collection and let me know where you think it might work. How about black? Just think, any card game theme is going to have lots of black, so it would tie in nicely on a Joker Poker, a Royal Flush, or Card Whiz, or any of them. And then there's the space games, Meteor, Galaxy, Black Hole, even Orbit. Add to that expansive universe feel with more black. Here's my Royal Flush project I mentioned earlier. I dropped a few black posts in there, and again, I love it. It complements the art on the playfield and plastics perfectly. I had a bright green, so I fired off a few of those. Of course, Attack from Mars and Revenge from Mars immediately came to mind. The Elvira games have a lot of bright green trim in the artwork, as does the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And even Ghostbusters has a few posts that these could replace. Here's all the other basic colors I had in my filament inventory. Remember, a lot of older games used to have opaque colored posts, so why not try that for accent colors and enhancements? As you can guess, I had to try. Take a look at this volley with me. Look at the white posts up the blue side and across the rollover lanes and down the green side. Now look at it with my colored posts added in there. The blue, the yellow, and the green. It absolutely pops now. Here's another look further down that volley playfield where you can see the colored posts by the drop targets. And then also down here in this neutral area I added red to the slingshots. This game looks amazing. Remember my Sky Kings, which was in much better shape than that other one that got me here? Take a look at this. Here's the before shot with the white posts, and then instead I added in some yellow posts to match the yellow on the playfield and the pop bumper cap. What other colorful games can you think of? How about Centigrade 37? Dark green posts near this decorative plastic and this green insert? How about orange posts near these orange stripes in the inlanes? Here's one more look at all the custom posts I have right now. There are plenty more colors out there, and I'd be excited to explore those too if you have a game that they might work well on. So, whether you need the golden posts to salvage your refurbishment project, or the wood posts to classy up your wood rail, or you just want to personalize your game with a pop of color, all you need to do is reach out to me at rocketcitypinball.com. And of course, don't forget, I can also help you decorate those walls too, at TurboFoxPhotography.com. The possibilities are endless because there are so many games out there. Look at your games and let's get creative. I'd like to thank Rob Burke for sharing in my enthusiasm and excitement about these custom colored posts. I also appreciate you giving me your time and keeping an open mind about trying something different. Thanks again, and let's keep them flipping, just now with an extra splash of color.
Davey, I'm speechless.
I am too. That is amazing.
Andy, you the man.
Way to go. Nice.
Is he the man?
He's
Is he the
definitely-
myth? Or is he the legend?
Legend.
You are the legend, man.
Yeah.
An innovator for this hobby. This is a great innovation. I want to know where I sit in line as far as placing my order. Because by now, he probably has, 100 phone calls or emails
Probably.
in front of me.
Phone's been ringing off the hook here, too.
Oh, my
You know,
God.
I just have to say, I love Expo. Expo has always been a pioneering to show the little guy, showing the new guy coming into the market. Here we go with
But
these
guess
beautiful
what's going to
posts.
happen? This is going to be the new norm.
Norm.
How do you
Yes.
spell norm?
N-O-R-E, I mean.
Norm. The point being, you watch a year or two from now, all the major manufacturers are going to either offer it for their LE packages or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But those look so tricked out, man.
Beautiful.
I love it.
And I know some of the purists are going to say, it's not the white post. It's not perfect. But I'm going to tell you something, and I know this. Wayne Nines and I walked through Expo Hall the one year, and we showed him all the cool new features. And you know what Wayne would say? If I had that available, I would have put it in there. He says, just because it's a standard white post, that's what we were given to use. And then, to save cost on production, we used the white post on everything.
I love it.
But now the idea of having all these different colors, making it very unique, Wayne would love it, and so would all the rest of the guys.
I got an idea. Let me write this down while people are listening in. I'm
Here
going
we
to have
go.
a contest next year at Expo.
Oh, boy.
And I want people to see who's got the most tricked out
Sure.
pinball. Now, I'm
Sure.
not talking about chroming everything.
Yep.
No. I'm talking about using Rocket City posts, the colored posts, using Pin Stadium lights,
Yep.
tricking this, colored guard rails.
Or that beautiful scribed rails that we saw last
Yeah.
night, too. So,
Tony Logan, unbelievable. Have him with his engraved. So we're going to see. Let me add it for next year. This is a Pinball Expo exclusive. Anyone that uses it at their show, I know where they stole the idea
Tasteful.
from.
Tasteful.
Me.
So what do we have to say? We have to get what? Get
Ready.
ready.